Greetings, citizens of Nerdtropolis. Sean Todd here, the mayor of Nerdtropolis, and on this episode of Real Insights, my guest is Longlegs and Billy the Kid actor, Dakota Daulby. Hello, Dakota. It is great to chat with you today. I feel like this long time making, and it's a perfect time to talk to you, I feel like.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, to talk to you at any time is the perfect time, so we're good.
That is very true, but it seems like things really have picked up steam like the last couple of years for you. So I'd have to say congratulations, and I feel like this year definitely some really great stuff, and last year and previous years in general. I think things are just picking up greatly, and I'm looking forward to already seeing more from you. So I'm super excited to talk to you.
Thank you. Yeah, acting and the creativity, it's a long haul sometimes. So it's nice when you finally start to get some projects that people are seeing and people are recognizing because you're so used to doing movies that nobody ever sees. Now suddenly you're like, oh, people actually get to watch my performances. That's nice.
Yeah, it's not ever overnight. Everyone will tell you, regardless of where they are in their career, whatever their career is, it's never overnight, and you gotta be in it. You gotta stick in it. It's the grind, and the payoff is there, and in different aspects, small or big, and here and there. But there's definitely a payoff, so it's great.
You know, I turned 30 this year, which feels crazy. But I've been acting professionally since I was 14, and something that I was taught really early on was you have to like recognize the little wins. So it's like as an actor, other actors will understand this, but it's like the callbacks and like the moments where you get close to the jobs or when you get good feedback. It's like you don't actually get the job, but it's like those the little wins that keep you going sometimes as an artist and keep you feeling like, oh, I'm on the right path, I'm doing the right work, and I just need the opportunity now. So absolutely, totally, it's a grind.
Yeah, what's the first little win that you can recall, and then I'll follow up with that. Like, what's the first big win after that?
Mm. I did a short film, like the first job I ever got, like first job I auditioned for and got was for a short film part of Capilano University, which is a university in British Columbia that has a film program. And I booked a lead of this short film. And it was the first time like I was actually getting to be on screen and getting to like perform for somebody that I didn't know. That was I got hired for this job in a way. I mean, I didn't get paid, but I got hired for the job, and I got to like create a character and come in and perform it. And the short did really well. And I still have people that come and talk to me about it because it's like kind of a popular short for Capilano. So I think that was the first like real gig I ever got, which I fondly remember, and it was a great experience. And then the first like kind of quote unquote big gig, I did a Steven Spielberg show called Falling Skies, which is like an alien show that was going on for TNT when that was a thing. And it had some great people like Noah Wiley and Will Patton, Doug Jones, and Moon Bloodgood, like some really impressive, cool actors. And I was like 18 when I got that job, so it was like the biggest sets I've ever seen. That's all these sci-fi sets, and I was playing this kind of almost like evil kids re-education dude. Like my job was to like brainwash these kids and to basically pull them to the dark side. So it was this really cool role, and I'm working on this big set and like all these actors that I've seen growing up, and I remember that being super exciting and super amazing because they were all really nice and they just welcomed me in, and I had a great time.
Yeah, I do remember that. That was the good old days back then. I feel like before like streaming really took over as well.
Dude, totally.
What did you
Different
take?
world.
Definitely a different world, and that was a really interesting show as well. Was there something you took away from that show, Falling Skies, and especially with that cast you mentioned? Everyone's a highlight, but I just love you mentioned Doug Jones. I feel like he doesn't get enough love out there, and I
Love Doug Jones. I still talk to Doug Jones. It's been a decade, and he's still a friend of mine, and like been such a good person to have in my life that's always encouraged me. Talking about this people that keep you going, he's one of those people for me. But okay, so Falling Skies, I remember a really cool learning lesson on that. I was struggling to understand the character and to like find a way into the character. And I think this was my first day, and like they gave me this crazy kind of like actually kind of a similar haircut to I have now. But I had like long shaggy hair when I got the job, so they cut it all off and they gave me this kind of like very military-esque haircut. But I still couldn't figure out the guy. And I'm on set and I'm nervous, and they're like setting up a shot that's behind me, so I'm kind of in front of the camera. And the director at the time, I think it was Greg Beeman, who was the exec of the show. He's like, just like clasp your hands behind your back and like hold your hands really tight because like we can see them and it looks weird. And I did that. And the moment I did that, understood the character. I was like, oh shit, like this is his posture. This is how this person stands. It's like very rigid and very, very solid. And it just gave me a sense of who he was as a person. And then it made me realize like, well, acting sometimes can be about physicality because I didn't understand that at that age. So suddenly I was like, oh, that's a way into a character, which is just finding their physicality. And suddenly all the like the relationship stuff can come out of that. So I remember that being a really distinct learning experience for me.
Yeah, and you've done like a variety of things. You know, you're always like genre jumping, I feel like, which is great. You've done a little bit of everything. And you know, one of the main reasons we're talking today is this film Longlegs,
Yeah.
which I watched, and I watched it like it was just a press screening, and it's probably four of us, and probably was a horrible idea because I don't like empty theaters. I don't like horror films or anything scary or thrillers. Like I don't do well by myself, and that's a film that has stuck with me. It's like haunting my brain in a good way, not in a bad
Yeah.
way. It just left a lingering taste in my mouth afterwards and still on. I think it's been a couple of weeks since it's been out. And it has a very unique tone and style. I need to know how this film came across you and what did you think when you saw the name, saw what was going on before even filming started? Because the movie really is, I don't know. It's like almost like an indie film, but not really. And it has
Yeah.
made a big splash and has done well at the
Yeah.
box office and has got great reviews. It's wild
Yeah.
where this film came out of nowhere.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, like I think Nicolas Cage is like a major selling point, of course, for everybody involved in that film. And he's just, you know, it's Nicolas Cage. Like he's like one of the best actors that's ever lived, in my opinion. He's so versatile and interesting and just brave with his performance. So getting to be a part of a Nicolas Cage film that also has an incredible writer director involved, like Oz Perkins is an auteur. Like he's a really special artist because first of all, he's freaking hilarious and he's just a good dude, right? So it's like a pleasure working with him personally. But then his approach to filmmaking, I think, is so nuanced and interesting, and it's very visual, and it's not like falling into the typical tropes. I think of horror genre. So I think he has a really distinct approach, and you kind of could feel that on set, just the way that he was shooting it and his approaches to like the scenes and the setups, and like you're like, oh, you're making something interesting. You're making a piece of art. It's not just like a jumpy horror movie, right? So that's always exciting as an artist. You're like, oh heck yeah, we're making art. Like it's always great when you get to actually make art because oftentimes you don't. So yeah, you can kind of feel that on set. Then in terms of like what draws you to the character, like to that performance, I mean, it's just like it's a good script, right? The script is well written. That's where it always begins, is in the story. So his writing is fantastic, and his scripts are kind of full of detail. They're very dense in a good way, in the sense of like you can see the world and feel the world. So obviously, that's like you want to be a part of that if you get the chance. So obviously, I was like stoked to be a part of it, and a lot of the producers, Chris Ferguson, Jesse Savitt, these are guys that I worked with before. I did a short film for them like 10 years ago. So getting a chance to now come back and do a really amazing feature with them was awesome. And they're like Vancouver local guys that have been hustling and creating their business. And you know, they have this, I mean, first of all, I'm super stoked for them because they've had this amazing success now through Longlegs, and it's blowing up globally, which is just amazing to see. Like these people that have really hustled and worked hard and they're genuine artists and genuine people in our industry to succeed is makes me so happy. So yeah, it's been an amazing experience, man. Like I kind of am shocked how big that film has become, and I think everybody involved is shocked because it is an indie. You mentioned it kind of has an indie feel. Well, it's because it is an indie. Like relatively speaking, it's it's not a huge budget film, and it's been able to like make a massive splash in the industry, which I think again speaks to Oz Perkins as a writer director.
Yeah, and it's honestly been a while since like true indie films have become big, right? We don't see many
Yeah,
of them. Some of them stay small and do their thing and they leave. They don't really stay with us very long. There's been only a few films like that that have done it. Long Legs is one of them. Without giving too much away, for those that have not seen it yet, so for those that have not seen it, go check it out. Long
yeah,
Legs. What a trip of a film, I would say that. From the first scene for me, like everything was just like, wow. I was like, okay, this is some roller coaster Oz Perkins has for us. He has
yeah.
this interesting aesthetic as well, which is really interesting. So, any particular scenes that stood out to you? I know there's multiple, but anything in particular that stood out to you?
I mean, there's a scene again. I don't want to talk too much about it because it's like he's going to ruin it. But there's a scene where Nicolas Cage's character is like singing in the movie, and it's obviously very disturbing. But I remember coming to set and I'm hearing playback of that of him singing, and I didn't know. I mean, I don't know. I didn't know who it was Nicolas Cage, right? So I'm like listening to this. I'm like, who is that? That's like it's like so crazy, right? And I'm like, who the fuck is like who's doing that song? And they're like, oh, that's Nicolas Cage. I'm like, oh, of course it's Nicolas Cage because like no one else can get away with that. That'd be so fantastic. So I just remember that so distinctly. Then watching it on screen, you're like, this is terrifying. This dude is so freaky in this movie. So that's kind of one of my favorite scenes. Then just the general aesthetic of the film. I mean, just like the style and the way that he like. There's a lot of these kind of characters. That's a kind of a big part. I don't know how would you describe that? Those characters that they use in the film. Do you know what I mean? Like the writing style.
Yeah,
It almost looks like it almost looks like Latin or something. It's like this like strange font that they use.
it's like a cryptic. It's like
Cryptic,
it's like a
cryptic
yeah,
is totally cryptic
coding.
is
Yeah,
good.
it's like a code.
So just like the stylistic nature of how they put that on screen and how they display all that, I thought it was just really brilliant and interesting, and just like tied the whole film together in this really beautiful kind of aesthetic.
Yeah, and to me, it's like the most non Nicolas Cage film, if that makes sense. You know,
That's the
like.
best way to describe it.
I mean, if you never mentioned Nicolas Cage, no one would really even say it was Nicolas Cage in it, first of all. And it's one of the most polarizing performances from him, something we've never seen before, visually, even performance wise and everything. So it's definitely wild. Did you have much interaction with him by chance on set, or
I did
he just came?
not. I
Yeah.
mean, I so wish I did because he's like, I'm such a fan of his. So I'm dying to have had that, but I didn't. I got robbed of that on this one. So hopefully it happens again.
Yeah, no, definitely. He had to come do his thing and move on to the next. So he's a busy man. It's
Oh
wild
my gosh.
how
Yeah.
many films he's been turning out. A lot of bangers, you know, and they're not all big films, but they're bangers. Like I said, you know, it's really great to see what he's been up to
It's
and coming
amazing.
back.
I love this era of Nicolas Cage. I'm like, I'm so in. I'm so in.
No, it is fabulous. And so Longlegs is one of those to watch. So I do want to talk a little bit about Billy the Kid. I talked to Tom Blythe, who was a joy to talk to. Uh,
Yeah.
you know, Billy the Kid is an iconic figure in history. You know, what's it like to be part of this MGM Plus series alongside Tom Blythe, and a historical series that's really badass, to be honest.
Thank you. Yeah, that job has been a job of a lifetime. To be honest with you, was incredible. It came at a time in my life where like I needed fun in my life. I needed like an injection of like just a good time, and this job came, and it's nothing but a good time. It's like you're riding horses and shooting guns, and I play a bad guy. I'm part of the Jesse Evans gang. I play a character named John Beckwith, and it's just like you're having the best time. I'm literally riding horses and shooting guns for a job. Like that's what I'm getting paid to do. Are you kidding me? This is silly. And I love westerns. Like westerns are the reason I got into film. It's like it's the beginning for me. The spaghetti westerns. So to be a part of one like that is just freaking unbelievable for me. And then on top of that, you're surrounded by Tom Bly and Daniel Weber and Sean Owen Roberts. Like these are all guys that we've all been a part of that since the beginning, and they're just the best people. Like it's just literally we often like it's hard for us to explain. It's like we're on set together for 12 hours a day, and then we'll just go hang out for the rest of the night together. Like no one ever wants to go home. It's like there's this massive FOMO in the whole group of the there's like 14 of us. We're always like, well, what are you doing? Are you going to go out? Are you going to go out? And we're always like just hanging out because we're all just became like really good friends during the whole shoot. So it's been a dream job. Honestly, it was so much fun. And Michael Hurst, I mean, he's the creator of Vikings, like iconic show creator, and then get the chance to know him and like work with him and actually subsequently, because I work as a writer, his company picked up a feature film of mine that I wrote, and now I've been working with him as a writer he's developing that story through his company Kin Productions, which is ran by two of his kids, Scarlett Hurst and Horatio James are part of that company. And Horatio is also in Billy the Kid. But it's like from going from like, oh, I'm working on a Michael Hurst job, which is already incredible, then to like now work with him as a writer. It's been such a dream come true and feels so, I'm like, how do I even end up in this situation? It feels so crazy.
It's that steam picking up, once you get the ball rolling on something that's also magical or just the right timing, everything starts doing. You meet the right people too, and having a great time on set and stuff like that. It's the way they connect. One job leads to another, and so forth, and other opportunities, which is awesome.
I'll tell you a really interesting story. And I don't think I've told Michael this yet. I want to tell him in person. It's when I was like 19, I went to Los Angeles for the first time, and I'm sleeping on a couch, and I'm like just like trying to like hustle my way to trying to find a job in LA. And obviously nobody wants to meet me because nobody knows me. So in my spare time, I'm like sending out these packages, like mailing these packages out with like little flash drives, because we used flash drives back then, of like audition tapes and whatever, just like material, like going, hey, I really hope to work with you one day. And I remember distinctly sending one to Michael Hurst and going, hey, I really want to work with you one day. And now, like 10 years later, or I guess, yeah, like 9 or 8, 10 years later, when it first began, I'm working with him. I'm like not only working as an actor, but now as a writer. And I'm like, that's amazing. That's like literally a decade ago, I sent that package out going, hey, I really hope to get to meet you and to work with you one day. And now we're doing that.
No, that is super awesome, and that's it's all about hard work at the end of the day, and just keep pushing yourself and pushing your way to get in front of these certain people. So that is like totally awesome. And like we were talking about Billy the Kid, it's so fun. It's like our childhood. Like we want to be cowboys, being Western, and you're living it
Oh,
out. You're saying you're on horses with the guns and all that stuff. And that's what Tom was saying. Like it's really fun. It's like a playground, and the set is awesome over there.
it's not a job. It's like honestly, it's not a job. Like you're riding a horse and you're in the field, or you're like in the town, because they have the whole town that exists there, and it's all real. It's like this is ridiculous. It's not even, no acting required.
What do you think makes the story Billy Kid so relevant today? And like what, Westerns really aren't as popular as they used to be, but they're kind of making a resurgence, I feel like right now, and especially with Billy the Kid.
Yeah, I think it's like the nostalgia of the past, right? Like we're always looking back to the past, and there's this feeling of I think of wanting to be free that we're all kind of like longing to, and I think that's the story of Billy the Kid. It's like he kind of just wants to be free and live his life, but he keeps getting sucked into the violence of this world, and he's not really that person. He kind of, at least how he's portrayed in Michael Hurst's version, right? And I think in our modern society, we kind of look back to that and we long for that kind of freedom. And at least that's what it felt like on set when you're like, I mean, that's how you feel when you're riding these horses. You're like, oh, I'm like kind of one with the world. And I think we're all looking for that to some degree in our life right now.
Yeah, that whole show it's so real. Nothing you watch it, everything's real off. It's because it's happening. Y'all are doing it, which is really
Yeah.
great, and it's really gritty. It's really great. I have to ask, you played a variety of roles in your career already. Which character have you connected with the most on a personal level, and why?
Yeah. That's a oh geez, that's always, I'm sure that's the hardest question for everybody. It's a hard question because it's like some characters you connect with, like you said, personally, but like the job itself is not very fun. And then like then the Billy the Kid job, it's like, oh, it's the most fun you've ever had. And it's like, so it's like a very conflicting thing. I did a film a long time ago. My first feature film, like an indie film called Black Fly. Um, there was like a local kind of horror thriller film. A great actor, and Matthew McCall played my brother, and Christy Burke, she's fantastic. She's on the Ark right now, the lead of the Ark. And we did this like indie feature together, and it was just about family. It was like about this like young kid. I played this young kid who was from an abusive family, and he runs away and he goes to live with his brother to kind of like start a new life for himself. And then throughout the course of the film, you get to realize the brother is kind of involved in some bad shit, and like the violence kind of catches up with them. And like just the character was very true to what was going on in my life at the time, and then also it was an opportunity for me to like to really dive into the work. So we talked about the short film and how that was like the chance to really act, and like this was a chance for me to really lead a film and like and learn what it was to be a professional actor and what it was to be prepared as an actor, and then be surrounded by like this guy like Matthew McCall is like basically my brother now. I've known him for 15 years, and it's like to watch people like that are just so talented, and it was just, I don't know, it was just like it's the best experience I've ever had as an artist. It was the purest experience, I think, for sure.
You have worked in so many different genres. Do you have a favorite genre that you have worked in so far, and maybe one that you haven't explored yet that you want to?
Yeah, Western for sure. I mean, the Western genre has been the most fun because I love horses, and it's just a blast. Um, my dream is to like, I want to be a knight. I want to like hold a sword and have some sandals on and like fight in a night battle. That's like, honestly, I'm like, if I can do that, I can die a happy man. I just really want to hold the sword. Come on.
That'd be really cool. It's off the top of my head, maybe the next Dungeons and Dragons film that they do, if they have some knights and, knight character, I'm sure they
Come
will
on.
obviously will.
When you interview them, come on, throw me in, man. Come on. I know you're going to interview them.
No, I will. I think that'll be fun. And I'm waiting for that, Dungeons and Dragons sequel. And that looks like a lot of fun. And I think that's a genre, cause it's a little bit of nerdy, a little bit of, knights and sci-fi and everything. It's a little bit of everything I feel like in there. It's very magical. And I can see you fitting in that very well, actually. Definitely can see that. Especially after Billy the Kid.
Let's go.
Let's do it.
Put a good word in.
Finally, I need to know, you mentioned a couple of them, but any upcoming projects or collaborations you're really excited for that you can share?
Of course, yeah. I have a film called The Joining that I co-wrote with my writing partner Harrison Hood and PD Beats from Pop Alternative. I'm sure you know PD Beats. So he came to us with this kind of really cool, interesting idea for this horror film, and all three of us developed it together and wrote this film and shot it down in Los Angeles with a company called Cinepack Studios. And we've actually, subsequently put it together and we've submitted it and we got accepted into Screamfest, is where we're going to have our premiere, which we're really excited about. It's going to be at the Chinese Theater in October. It stars Brennan DeMico, Carter Glade, and Sid Noel, which is like a fantastic, fantastic cast. And I think it was pretty exciting because like Brennan came on, she's obviously stars in the film, but she also produced it with us, which was godsend. She was phenomenal. She brought in Carter and brought in some phenomenal people to the film. But it was a really cool opportunity for, I think, audiences to see her in a different way, because she's kind of known as the Disney girl through the Descendants franchise, and she's phenomenal in that franchise, of course. But this was our chance to like show a different side of Brenna to the world. And I think we did a really cool job at that, because the film's kind of freaky and creepy and has some really disturbing elements. And Brenna's a huge part of that without giving any spoilers away. So we're super stoked about that. Screamfest is our first festival we've submitted to, so it's a good start. Phenomenal way to begin. So we're hoping this is like a good omen and will lead to many, many other opportunities, and we'll get to have the film out there. But yeah, so called The Joining, and we're stoked for it to be at the TCL.
No, that's super exciting. And a really cool place to showcase the film. And you just said, it's the first submission for Screamfest, the first festival, and they got you in, which is really amazing. You got PD Beats, who made this happen between you and me. He's awesome. So I just think there's a great core over there working on this.
Oh, PD was great. Like, he has his company, Pop Alternative Pictures, and he partnered with us. I have a company with my co-creator, Harrison Hood, called Vesperia Films. So we just kind of came together. We met through like a mutual friend and another filmmaker, and she introduced us all together, and it just like vibed. I mean, it worked well. And he had this really awesome idea, and he kind of gave us, Harrison and I, freedom, because we directed the film, to put our spin on it. And he really believed in that vision. And I think all of us together, we were able to create something that we feel is pretty powerful.
I love that. I want to watch this in any capacity. I'll see if I can make it to that festival. But if not, I'm definitely got to feature that on Nerdtropolis. That's what we're going to do.
Please, yeah.
Yeah, Dakota, this has been really great. I'm super excited for your career. You have had a long career already. Like, it's been impressive.
Thank you.
But it's like I said, it's picking up steam. There's more to come. And I just feel like you're also at the end of the day still getting just started. There's a lot more out of you creatively and for your career. And so I'm super excited, and hopefully we can talk again.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I have a new Apple show coming out next year. So we'll talk when that show drops, and that'd be pretty cool. It's the same guys that did Blackbird, if you know that show. That's a pretty cool, pretty popular. It's the same team. So yeah, when that comes out, let's talk again. That'd be awesome. Thank you very much for having me. It's awesome.
Once again, this is Sean Taj, the mayor of Nerdtropolis, and stay tuned for more movie news, reviews, interviews, and trailers.